Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. Tonight's show is going to be opinionated. It's going to be pretty much argumentative because it's a topic that a lot of us don't care about, but a lot of you do. Find out what that is next on the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. Be right back.
Big gold belt, big gold belt, big gold belt, big gold belt. All I really want is that big gold belt, big gold belt, big gold belt, big gold belt. All I really need that big gold belt, big gold belt, big gold belt. All I really want is that big gold belt, big gold belt.
The Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast brought to you by Big Gold Belt, BigGoldBelt.com for all your wrestling, comics, and all your nerd-centric news. But tonight, it's the three amigos. And no, unfortunately, there was no suplexes involved with this. To my upper right square, we have Two Chains.
Yo, what up?
And to the right or left, depending on who you're looking at, the Giant Crab Jamal. How are you, sir?
Hello.
Hello, Governor. And you got me, Damien G. Unfortunately, Will and Celis are not here today, but never fear. We have your wrestling news and opinions ready for you. And the first thing we're going to talk about tonight, honestly, who doesn't like a list? You know, you got these YouTube channels, you got all these shows that like to do top 10s, top 20s. How about a top 500? PWI, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, a magazine that I did not know still printed actual magazines in the year and age of digital media, has released its annual wrestling PWI 500.
It's that time again.
Yep, 500. It's that time again where people blow their minds and loads because their favorite wrestler either wasn't in the top 10 or didn't make the list, or you have people like in one case that I said in our group chat, they're still alive, working. So the PWI Insider, the Pro Wrestling 500, gentlemen, and I'll start with Jamal.
Mm-hmm.
One, do you care? And two, does it really matter in the grand scheme of things?
So the first thing is I'll never care about a 500-person list of anything. Like 500 is way too much, number one. Only like the top 25 really matter. However, I do think that it does serve some usefulness because there are a lot of people that on the independents, especially, you know, maybe in other countries, you're going to come across a name that you don't know. You're going to come across a face that you may not have seen in a while. You're going to come across somebody that may pique your interest. So this is something that everybody's talking about. This is something that, you know, people seem to have an interest in. I can hear the cops in the background right now racing to get their issues of Pro Wrestling Illustrated. So it's kind of the devil, you know, and that's fine for what it is. Personally, well, I'm not a wrestler, so I don't really care. I mean, it is what it is. It's somebody's opinion based on their metrics. Their metrics do not align with my sensibilities. Cool. I have no problem with letting the list be the list and moving on. But the internet, so we got to burn everything down.
Two James.
I mean, it's the same thing each and every year. The positives of the list, obviously, is it does bring the community together. All eyes are on it when it releases. And there's a certain art aesthetic to it as well, too, because, you know, regardless if there was numbers next to these names, there are accomplishments, some of their notoriety, territories, areas they worked, along with photography. So there's a lot of reasons to want to look at it because there will be definitely a name that you don't know that's outrageously, like, you know, depending, I ain't gonna say outrageously, but is ranked in a proportion that you're just like, this person's like 100 and something. I've never heard of them before. I should probably take a look at this. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, you know, there's the positive. I also think another positive is that there are folks that feel the need to want to step up because they feel by looking at where they were previously at, or whether it's a decline, or actually they got into a higher rank, they realize like, hey, hard work pays off, or I should work harder to get there. And then there's folks that obviously have been missed, you know, that says like, I know what I need to do in order to step up for the next year. And you kind of can look at descriptions, say like, oh, well, people that are high are on television. We get that, working at a high rate. But then there's folks that's independently high. And you're just like, okay, what's some of the steps that they've been taking, their outreach, you know, the different promotions that they work, you know. On that note, look at the promotions that's being named. I need to get on their radar because that's probably something that will help beneficially in the future. And with all of us, you know, as wrestling fans and working within wrestling journalism and media and whatnot, you know, we take an eye at it. A lot of these names we know, some names we don't know. But you also got to think about the promoters who also takes this through the same scope, whether it's independent promoters or you're talking about the folks of Tony Khan saying, hey, I don't even know who this person is, but they're ranked pretty high. Should take a look at it. So like there's definitely a lot of positives to each and every September-ish that we see to come out. But the negative is obviously the internet. Of course. Because, you know, there's the whole like, I can't believe this person's higher than this person, and where is this person? There are people that are missing that, you know, mistakenly missing, like Cash Wheeler, and so on, and so, like, you know, it's going to create commentary, it's going to create podcasts like this, it's going to create people wanting to say some things about it. So, you know, and it's always going to have a little point of backlash behind it because somebody wasn't there. I mean, I saw something that was super interesting. People say, hey, you know, if women are making a 500 list, you know, what's the criteria of women making the list? Which we know that women make the list if they work intergender wrestling. So that disqualifies certain people because WWE doesn't do, or NXT doesn't do it. AEW does it to an extent. I'm not sure if that qualifies, but, you know, Ty and them have been doing it. But hey, there's other regions in the world that always does this. I mean, somebody brought up the point of saying like, okay, then is there anybody from Mexico on this list? Any women from Mexico from this list? So that type of criticism stands pretty firm. And hopefully the folks that put this together, then they open up their lens to want to invite more people to it because that gives them more attention and whatnot. So like, again, it's a beacon of attention that everybody can look at, whether it's the internet, whether it's print, that either helps with recruiting, helps with notoriety, helps with motivation, and a bunch of other things. But then it's always just the internet and the backlash that just makes it all negative. For real.
So to follow up with that, you know, I never thought of it as wrestlers using it as a motivational force because we as fans, we just look at it and say, okay, it's a list, keep it moving for the most part. And maybe some people may feel slighted that they're not on this list. And then some people might just be like, who cares? Who actually wrestle, who are technicians and such. So that for me is kind of an interesting twist where it's used as a motivational slight. You know, you hear all this time about, oh, Jordan got cut from his varsity team or what have you. And that motivated him to kind of be, to be one of the best of all time or the GOAT. But now with wrestling, it's if you're not on this list, how many people weren't even alive on this list when Pro Wrestling Illustrated came out? Do they even know about Pro Wrestling Illustrated? And it's more like, oh, who are they? Okay, fine. Or on the other hand, it's, oh, word, they slighted me. All right, I'm going to show them. So it's a weird balance that you have to kind of cover if you're a talent. And do you care too much or do you not care at all? So for the audience, I just want to specify partially maybe why the reason Cash Wheeler wasn't in this. So the evaluation period and activity, we have July 1st, 2021 to June 30th of 2022. So the summer months or the July, August, September months.
Wait,
don't
that's not
count.
why. That's not why he was on there. He was actually number 130 something. They just mistakenly forgot.
Oh, they just
him.
didn't put him in. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. It wasn't like he wasn't in the eligibility window. And I mean, for him, I mean, he's a good sport. He know he had a hell of a year, and I think he should sort of be somebody people should look towards. Like, hey, he legitimately got snubbed because one, that means something. I mean, obviously he knows where he's at, which obviously if you put him in, then that pushes everybody back and whatever it may be. And then the whole reprinting and all that's a lot to kind of deal with. But you have to think too that he's very cool about it. But him being off definitely allowed somebody else to either get a picture spot, get their whole profile on there.
Just to get a profile, right? Yeah, even if it's a mistake and you have a 500 with an asterisk, a 501.
Yeah,
you still made it onto the publication.
Yeah.
But for the audience, again, it's July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. A minimum of 10 matches total, or 6 matches in those separate months. So essentially once a month. The ranking criteria: competition, success against the most varied and highest quality opponents available, technical ability.
Hey, can I cut you off? You're saying all this, and none of this means anything to me.
I know, but I'm just telling the audience who may not know how the rankings are made.
Listen,
quote unquote.
let's not make tonight boring. Let's just call it what it is. Nobody gives a damn
Popularity
about the criteria.
contest.
Exactly. Nobody gives a damn about the criteria. It's where they personally feel their favorite wrestler should be. Period.
Mm-hmm.
And even with the criteria, there's still going to be some discrepancy. So essentially, you're going to love it. You can't win for losing in it. It's a double-edged sword for whoever's involved. And it is. You can only do your best and say, hopefully everybody finds something positive to take out of this. As I mentioned, either find means of it to motivate you to just want to get on the list, or a celebration of where you were and where you're at now on to the next year. It's not, listen, the PWI hopefully can help you cash some bigger checks, can help you get some different calls, or hopefully has you right now at home thinking like, Dad, that person's working this, and this show. I need to reach out to those promoters. I need to try to work a blah, blah, blah show, or blah, blah, blah show. Because if you look at some of the rankings, that show is being heavily featured. It's not to say that people aren't working in West Virginia, but are we seeing West Virginia promotions promoted? No. And what does that mean? Does that mean your work is less good than anybody else's? No. It's telling you that they may not have identified that promotion. So if you want to get identified, you may need to find another home base, or you need to have a conversation with your promoter and saying, hey, none of your wrestlers, none of your rosters is on here. So I just think this should be means of determination and motivation outside of like the metric of I need to be more technical or I need to be this, because none of that shit matters at all. at all. It brings me to a point I was thinking about last week. It's very odd how there's not enough popularity behind Jonathan Gresham, but everybody likes Bryan Danielson. I don't get it.
We know
I don't get it. Yeah, exactly. I don't get it. Also, you talk about it. I put it in our chat. Baron Black is somewhere near the damn bottom of the 500, who runs a promotion, who has been nothing but a valuable piece of talent for AEW Dark, who's been working AEW Dark since the pandemic, which means like in the days of like, hey man, good luck. You sacrificing everything by being out here, man. Like the COVID is out here running strong. And then you mean to tell me that I look at him as somebody as a damn near close to the bottom 500 wrestler based on everything I know about Terminus, everything I know about what's the other one? I call it Def Jam Vendetta Wrestling.
It's not Hood Slam, but it's something
Battle Slam. Battle Slam.
Yeah.
Working scrappy, doing things down in Atlanta, getting it going, running a promotion, but you're going to tell me that? Come on now. That's why the criteria and all that doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with popularity. To me,
but to your point though about the criteria, these are based on matches, not necessarily the intangibles. So in that regard, Baron Black is 0 for the year. I think he's won twice on TV. So I mean, if that's
I think, but yeah,
yeah. But I'm saying if that's their metric, should he even win in his own promotion? So if that's their metric of the matches that you put up, stuff like that, then those intangibles don't matter per their metrics. So It is kind of what it is at that point. But the reason why I don't like it, and the reason why I really don't care, is because this is no different than like the AP poll in college football.
That's exactly what I was thinking about.
And that's so. I mean, so that's the problem. Like the whole system is predicated on the fact that big name school gets to be a big name school, and they can lose, but if they lose twice, then obviously their season's over because of the way the schedule works out. But a smaller school has to win 5 years in a row, undefeated, shut everything down, win by 70, and they'll still never crack the top 25.
Listen, just name Boise State. I know that's where you're going.
Thank you. That's I was thinking about Boise State.
not even Boise State, but I'm just saying, like a smaller team. If you're Eastern Washington, you got to win for your life. But Alabama can lose by 5, and that doesn't make one team necessarily better or worse than the other. It's just that there's no parity, because obviously, if Eastern Washington plays Alabama, they're going to get steamrolled. But why is that? That's because they can recruit better. They're more notoriety. They're in a Power 5 conference, and this list is just the same thing. If you're only going to read the top 10, top 50, top 100, that's only 1/5 of the list. And maybe you skim the rest of it to see what your friends are and your faves are. I see you, Josh Fuller, 497. But those are that is kind of what it is. So the rich keep eating, and the guys at the bottom are at the bottom. So I just think that's why I don't put too much stock in the list. It's arbitrary. If you like a guy, go support that guy in person. If you don't know a name, all right, cool. Maybe write that name down. But as far as the list being the end all, or people clowning Gresham, for example, for allegedly saying, well, hey, I was ranked number 20 in the PWI, so I should be at a higher standard than you're giving me credit for, which may or may not be what he actually said, but that's what people are running with. But yet people clowned him for allegedly saying that, or the thought of him saying that. But here we are, 17 minutes into the show talking about this goddamn list. So we
haven't even talked about who's on the list for the most part.
Right. So we spent, some time setting the table, but which is it? Is Gresham a clown for bringing it up, assuming that he did, or does it actually not matter? I'm willing to say that it doesn't matter, but yet here we are every fucking September.
I mean, here's my thing. I mean, obviously, we could never, ever put our feet in these shoes, but you have to think too. At the end of the day, your name is being dropped. You always gonna make sure you want Birdman. I ain't gonna say it no more. Put some respect on my name. That you gonna pull up on you. I'm gonna look you in your eye. Like if that's what it's gonna be, then that's what it's gonna be. And that's where I think the self dignity and respect jumps into play of saying like, hey, it don't matter. But by the way, you mentioned my name, so I got some things I want to mention. I think that's sort of the posture that you get with certain wrestlers and whatnot in this, because at the end of the day, as long as the checks are coming in and their bills are being paid, they don't give a hell about this list, especially the top ones that's been doing this for years. But then you do got the ones that's still in the trenches trying to figure it out. Those are the ones that take a little more stake in it.
I think the list, for as bad as I say that it is, and I don't need it. However, I'm not a wrestler on the bubble. I'm not a wrestler that got that one AEW squash match on Dark, never heard from again. Or maybe that high-profile indie promotion that was on Fight TV, never heard from again. And then again, if I am, I'm looking at the bottom of the list. But if I am Mr. Grimm, shout out to Mr. Grimm 479. That's a guy who I think should be higher up, not necessarily in the list, but higher up in standing in wrestling. He's good gimmick, good guy. I like him, but I also know who he is. And for a person out there in the middle of West Utah, and that's never heard of him before, maybe they stumbled across some YouTube compilation and said like, hey, this is a guy that I'm interested in. But then again, Angelo Dawkins is ahead of him. So what is this list? I don't know what's going on anymore. Why is Angelo Dawkins at 478? So there is that.
You know what's funny about that? Every other tag team is right next to their tag team partner. That one I just don't get.
But you know what? I mean, honestly, this is really what it is. This is really what it comes down for me. Are you better or worse than Matt Taven?
Wow.
Hey,
wow.
That's the list
Matt
for me.
Taven, give up.
That's the list for me.
Yeah.
And that's my Mendoza line. If you're a baseball fan, But that's the list for me. Plus or minus Matt Taven.
My man Matt Taven 400 this year.
400 even.
Ahead of Solo Sikoa.
He's number one in
God.
a lot of people's hearts. That's all I know.
Yeah,
Listen. It's just hard to try to sit here and put
quantify.
Yeah, exactly. But I will say, and I always say his name.
I just did plus or minus Matt Taven. He is the bar.
I will say this in terms of like a name that I wanted to see where they were going to be at, because I think it's just undeniable how good of a year that they had, is number 59, Takashita. I couldn't look in any direction without seeing him work on all platforms, top tier. Not a name that I knew about last year. Certainly knew this year.
Oh yeah.
I think when you have to look at a person to be motivated by and see where he's ranking at, that's where you go right there. Number.
No,
59.
you're absolutely right. Because if you go back and you look at Takeshita's his first AEW match to his last AEW match, he was with the cream of the crop on Dark and those smatterings that he got on Dynamite. So no, you're absolutely right. Konosuke Takeshita, for those who don't know, please look him up, because that man is a future world champion, in my opinion.
Well, in America, because he was a world champion in DDT.
Yes, in America.
Times.
Thank you.
So
thank you. So just for argument's sake, because we're almost at 20 minutes talking about this, the top 20: McIntyre at 20, Omega, Cole, Rollins, MJF, Tanahashi, Josh Alexander, Matt Cardona, whatever, John Moxley, Shingo Takagi, Gresham, Big E. Here's the one that I like at number 8, because everyone's saying, who the F is that if you don't follow AAA? It's Hijo de Vikingo, son of the Viking. So he was number 8. 7, Danielson. 6, Cody. 5, Lashley. 4, Hangman. 3, Punk. 2, Okada. And number 1, the head of the table, 1, Roman Reigns.
Oh boy.
The only surprise there is Hijo the Viking. That's it for me.
Punk being at 3 is extremely. I mean, when you think about the top 5, you think about the champions that carry the company. If you look at Roman, it makes sense. Mm-hmm. Undeniable. Okada, absolutely makes sense. But also, then I was like, well, if you got Okada at 2, Jay White needs to be somewhere near the top 10. That's when I started looking at the discrepancy. You look at the world champions, the ones who carried the belt, the top prize of your promotion throughout the fiscal year. They're
Jay White has the charisma of a spoon. I would not have him in the top 15 or 20.
And you know what? See, this is what I keep.
Roman Reigns is number 1 then,
and then and Bryan Danielson is better charisma wise.
Yeah,
my opinion, yes.
Yeah.
Look, and I used to be, but I don't want to get into the back and forth because we're not that show. But I used to be a Jay White fan. Over the last maybe year and a half, 2 years, he's stale. I'm bored.
I mean, I thought his run in Impact, New Japan Strong, AEW. I mean, being in all these different promotions, being the champion. The resurgence of the Bullet Club, which has greatly impacted wrestlers underneath him. One being Ace Austin, who is really high this year. I mean, you talk about what he did; it was must watch in Japan. It's hard for me. I'm not saying he's my favorite wrestler. I'm not saying like he checks all the boxes, but again, if you talk about the top 5 are champions that carried the promotion or numerous title reigns and whatnot. So, like, yeah, Adam Page makes sense there. Lashley makes sense there. I wouldn't put Cody that high, but Cody did a really big thing, really big moment, very game changing in all of professional wrestling. I guess that's the category. But like, yeah, Punk, I mean, he just won the championship twice really recently. And other than that, it was just like he's back and he's going to talk every day.
And
put him up at number 3. Put him up at number 3.
And that's why it's under influence as something that's a criteria ranking. As much as you don't like it.
I mean, I'm saying CM Punk's ice cream sandwiches puts him at number 3.
Okay, fine. All right, where's Orange Cassidy at then? Let me see, because you talk about people that's over real quick.
Well, I mean, to be fair,
114.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool.
So Scorpio Sky's at 38.
What?
Two-time
yeah, I get that.
TNT. Yeah, okay. I'm out.
No, but that's the thing. Like Scorpio Sky's at 38. But if we're talking about personality and charisma and what you brought to the table, I've seen this jar of applesauce I got in the fridge that I'm about to tear up has more charisma than Scorpio Sky. And don't get me wrong, it has cinnamon in it. So yeah, it has a leg up. But
hey, the Man of the Year stuff was kind of hot for a little bit, and Dan Lambert, as much as I know Damien
that was
Lambert,
like and that was Ethan Page. I hate Ethan Page, but that was Ethan Page.
It's the stable, and of course you had that moment where he had to call out Ty, and everybody went after her whenever they had a moment on mic. So I don't know, but again, I don't know. I hate to have to get into that. It's just good to see some of the smaller names like Mike Bailey being at 30 is definitely like
that man's had a year. Let's be honest.
I would put him higher.
Had a year
for sure. But even still, just being is in the very low numbers for sure. Like it. I like it.
Is there anyone that you think from that top 25 to 30 should not be anywhere near that?
Adam Page. Like just full stop. And this isn't my bias showing. I think he had a horrible championship run.
He did.
Ryan outclassed him in both of their matches that they had.
You're never gonna let that go. But I already told you
that's what happened.
Yeah, but I already told you it's another conversation. But yeah.
So then I mean, and also they were booking him from behind. You know, he was the champion, and they were booking him as if he still had something to prove. So what does the belt mean then? I mean, that whole thing was I didn't get it. But that's what is Adam Page? He's number 4. And he's number 4 behind CM Punk's ice cream bars. I don't see that. I don't see that at all. A lot of New Japan guys that I just don't know because I don't watch New Japan, and not too many from DDT, which is what I do watch. So it's I would put a lot of guys from DDT in my top 50 if I had to make one over, and almost nobody from New Japan would be there because I just don't know them. And that's kind of the subjectivity of the list as well, is that we can tell who they watch. They definitely watch WWE. They definitely watch AEW. They watch the high-profile indies. They watch New Japan and maybe Stardom. That's generally it. And if you've heard of a person or heard of another person, then maybe. But I'm not seeing anybody from any of the other Asian promotions, from Singapore, China, Taiwan, Philippines. I'm not seeing anybody from Central Europe,
West Virginia,
the autonomous state of West Virginia. I'm not seeing anybody from there. Shout out Premier Wrestling. So as far as the list goes, I mean, I see names like Jay White, and Josh Alexander, and Max Friedman, boo. Matt Cardona, boo. John Moxley will never be on my wrestling list ever because he's not a wrestler. He's just a goon. Viking Son, I like him. But Adam Page at number 4 is fucking baffling.
James, what about you? Anyone in the top 30 you're kind of scratching your head about?
Braun Breaker at 26 is.
I mean, he's the champion the entire time. So, I mean, that's kind of like weird. He's that low.
Scorpio Sky was a champion.
I know that's like, but Braun Breaker literally carried NXT 2.0 as the champion. So
right, that's why they're about to switch it up. Okay, so
I'm just saying the champion's the champion. That's the
promotion. Good, that's the thing. I mean, like you keep saying the champion's champion. Scorpio Sky's a champion. And he's a bad one. Adam Page is a champion, and he's a bad one.
Listen, I'm just going. Tom Brady's the GOAT, best quarterback to ever play in the NFL. I just don't think he's the best quarterback actually right now today.
Because he's 50.
But he won a Super Bowl, and if somebody said that, hey, he's the best quarterback of last season because he won it all, that's what it is. But you'll have that conversation of, oh, Aaron Rodgers is better. I mean, God knows they love Andrew Luck when he was in the league. They say he was the next Messiah numerous years. And I always thought that dude was trash. I think it's the same philosophy here. It's just like, hey, when you're the champion and that's that, then that has to mean something.
My counter always will be to that is Robert Ory has more championships than Jeffrey Jordan.
And he's
I'm just saying.
Shot Bob.
Hey, who was just selling their rings not that long ago?
Was it Horace Grant?
Yeah, Horace Grant. Yes, it was.
Oh, my man Horace selling his rings.
Yep, just to your point. Because even they know, like, it's kind of fluke, but, I was there, but.
Right.
It's okay.
So I'm saying, like, it has to mean more than just you were booked to win a championship, and that's what it is too. I mean, it was time for Adam Page to win it Full Gear. It was not time for him to keep it for 6 months because he was never that guy.
Yeah. Nobody surprises me in this. I mean, in top 30 for sure, because I started to look at certain names and wonder where they were going to appear. Josh Alexander, you know, will he get the Impact slight? Moose obviously being there. That's kind of how I looked at it. You know, a lot of people didn't care about Impact. I personally stopped watching after a point. But they're champions of their champions, and they still work the independents as well too. So I guess that counts for stuff. But yeah, you know, as Jamal said, we know who they watch. That's to say all be all. Don't matter what the fuck we think.
And just for a continuation from last year, if Gresham wants to lead with his ranking this year, he's number 10.
Mm-hmm.
So he's up on the list from last year. So if he wants to throw that down on a resume to get more bookings, be my guest. If somebody in the top 100 wants to use it as part of a resume enhancer or a CV, be my guest. Don't know if that's going to get you a job, but it got Matt Cardona up to what, 13? Jesus Christ. Can't believe GCW Cardona got up there that high. Anyway, we're at that midway part, folks. And when we come back, yet another brand is getting a redo. I don't understand it, but we'll talk about it next. Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. A little birdie told me, everybody, that you may be interested in doing some sponsorship and advertising opportunities with us here at Big Gold Belt Media. You know what? You might as well, because we are the golden standard for all of your media needs. Why would you want to go anywhere else? Besides, all of your pre-roll ads, your mid-roll ads, as well as your on-air reads are going to be done by me, Damian G. Yeah, professional broadcaster, Damian G. We do all types of social media promotions. That means your podcast, your IG, your Facebook, your Twitter, and your business website all get shouted out on our network here at Big Gold Belt Media, where we cover wrestling, movies, comics, and more. And you can find out more information and make those inquiries, kids, because, you know, limited time offer here at Big Gold Belt Group at gmail.com. Again, that is Big Gold Belt Group at gmail.com. Why would you want to go anywhere else? I wouldn't. Well, I work here, but I still wouldn't even if I didn't. So again, Big Gold Belt Media for all your sponsorship and advertising opportunities, your podcast, your IG, your Facebook, your Twitter, all of your social media platforms, as well as any business website you want us to promote on our show. Big Gold Belt Group at gmail.com. And let them know Damon G sent you. Well, as you heard me just say, if you're interested in marketing and promotional opportunities with us here at Big Gold Belt, the Big Gold Belt Podcast, feel free to reach out to us. Like I said, Big Gold Belt all across the board on all our social media platforms. So we've had NXT 1.0, Black and Gold.
Wait a minute. I know we got stuff to talk about here. But before we talk about stuff, we also like to, again, turn around and reflect and project and spotlight that promotion that you need to be looking out for. Without further ado, Jamal.
Yep. So let's go with this. We have this coming weekend, DPW, and that is DPW Victory Lap, September 17th. And that's happening this coming Saturday down in Raleigh, North Carolina, C3 at the venue. That's 5121 Capitol Boulevard, Suite 5291. VIP doors open at 6, regular doors at 6:30. Show starts at 7. The big match, the one that I'm actually pretty excited about. You got Jungle Kiona. He's going to be there. You have, Tankman's going to be there. Look, DPW has not missed ever, and they've been doing a heck of a job coming through with. I mean, this is one of these indie shows, promotions that we've been talking about that PWI is looking into. So,
bingo.
This is one of the ones. And of course, if you can't make it down in North Carolina, then of course you can watch DPW on demand. But you're definitely going to want to be in the building. DPW Victory Lap, featuring Jungle Kiona, making one of her few American dates. And that's the other thing too. They brought her all the way over from Japan, working on only a few American shows, and she's in Raleigh, North Carolina, of all places. So, that is a pretty damn big deal. Hell, one of these days I'm going to have to get down there for an event. But Victory Lap this Saturday. Show starts at 7 o'clock. DPW on demand or in person in Raleigh, North Carolina, 5921 Capitol Boulevard. C3 at the venue this coming weekend. For tickets, you can head up at Eventbrite or deadlockpro.com/tickets. So there you go. Indie Spotlight for this week.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jamal. Much appreciative. My apologies for jumping the gun here for our next topic, which, again, as I stated before, is a rebrand once again for the NXT brand. We had the black and gold. First, we had a game show. Let's start there. Then we actually had it as a reality show mixed with some real life elements. And then it became training ground for pretty much people on the independent circuit who are about to break that ceiling to get into the main roster of WWE. Then we had it where it was considered a third brand in the black and gold era.
That never happened.
Supposedly that was considered a third brand by some people. Just saying.
That's what I'm saying. It never happened.
Not Triple H.
Yeah.
Well, they beat never mind.
And listen, it's definitely not a third brand now. But after that interview on BT Sports, it's definitely.
Yeah, I saw that interview with Ariel Helwani. Yep.
Yeah,
that's not a third brand anymore.
I'm off that mountain now. He said it out of himself, and he had the opportunity to solidify, and he was like, "Nah."
Still drove the bus over AEW real quick, but that's beside the point. Then we had NXT 2.0 because Vince and Bruce got a hold of it and made it a walking Instagram thirst trap. Nikita Lyons, how you doing? Things of that nature. Lash Legend. And now, my friends, with Triple H now taking over creative for pretty much all WWE or for all of WWE, and Shawn Michaels being promoted as well, NXT is getting another rebrand. So is it now gold and white in color schematic? So I know we might have talked about this either last week or a couple of shows ago. If we saw a rebrand for NXT, what would that look like? And we all said it was a mixture or a mesh of both 1.0 and 2.0. But realistically now that another rebrand is coming, are we excited? And if we are or aren't, why not and why? So I'll start with 2 James.
This is the one that just doesn't matter to me. To me, I don't think the colors matter after a while. Like after you were very like, I don't know, I guess you were kind of just like, what in the Nickelodeon is happening? I think after a while you just got used to it. It's like, okay, that's what it is. I mean, it was different. It looked different, but like the philosophy inside could have changed and it still could have had the outprinting aesthetic and been okay. So it going back to black and gold or gold and white, whatever's going to be.
Gold and white. Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean anything to me. To me, it makes me think like, did y'all really not like all the colors? Because I don't think a lot of people cared after a while. At first, I was like, what? But after a while, I think people's like, okay, cool. It's different, you know? And I don't know. I mean, Dynamite kind of has that same color scheme and their appearance and whatnot. And so I don't get it. I don't get it. So it doesn't mean anything to me.
Jamal.
Yeah, I think as a person that doesn't watch NXT and really hasn't watched it.
Yeah, I told Nikita Lyons you said that too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I mean, let her know. But yeah, as a person that doesn't really watch NXT, it really is going to have to be what are you going to do as far as the talent goes? I am a wrestling first type of person. I really don't care about much. They could all come out dressed like Steve Blackman.
I'll get that.
Wearing the cheese head. Mm-hmm.
And I really don't, I watch it just the same. But that's not what WWE does. They're big on spectacle. So it'll be interesting to see how they change it. It was a little bit more of a purposely skewing young, where they just tried to, and that's another thing too. The way NXT transformed into NXT 2.0 kind of felt like an old DJ playing young people's music. It was like listening to Hot 97 now. And I know the DJ is 50 plus years old and they're like going bananas because little whoever just came on and they're hyping up this song. And I'm like, you can't possibly care about this. You're literally 55.
You mean Flex can't drop a bomb on it?
No, because it sounds disingenuous after a certain point, because it's just like, you're pushing 60, bro. How are you enticed by Chief Keef? It doesn't make any sense. And you could kind of tell that this is what, like, yeah, this is what young people like. Flashy colors and hip hop, lingo, and we're gonna, like, get crunk. Do kids get crunk? We're gonna get crunk. Yes, that was the number one of their vision board. It just said crunk in lime green letters. and it showed. So if they can get back to wrestling first, and then marry that with whatever the aesthetic is going to be, which is what they did with Raw and what they did with SmackDown, where they just got back to telling stories via wrestling. And if they can get back to doing that, then the work will speak for itself. But NXT 2.0 definitely tried a little bit too hard, considering where they came from, and we really didn't know where this was going. And that's why people immediately thought, what in the Nickelodeon is this?
Yeah,
because it looked purposely childish,
goofy.
But listen, right. but listen, it had to separate itself from the old identity, so it makes sense because the identity of it was drastically changed. This was very character centric. It wasn't based on the notoriety of your independent, or the notoriety of your independent
career.
Yeah, it didn't matter about that. This was building new generation of wrestlers that need to be ready for WWE, new entertainers. And so maybe the entertainment spot is now 50-50 now. Now you go back to
their key demo, though.
What is their key demo?
Well, I believe their WWE's average skews the oldest.
Yes.
And I think that was the thing that came out. I mean, I would have to find the report again, but the bottom line is that WWE's average is like 35 plus. Whereas AEW core audience is like 25 plus. So we're talking not even post, we're just talking middle-aged, people. Right. And that's not what NXT 2.0 speaks to, which is why it felt so goofy to us who are 35 plus.
I don't know, man. I mean, listen.
I just told you the answer. You don't have to know.
No, but listen, you say that, but one of I can say one of the most silliest gimmicks that we all enjoy is Chase U. That shit is completely silly, and it works.
But that's the thing, though. And again, love Chase U, but I need all the merch. That should be a thing, and that's not because it's so overly 2025. And that was the problem with NXT 2.0. They weren't trying to build a current product; they were trying to build a pre-modern product.
Right.
And which is not the way people watch TV. They watched it based on things that they've seen, not anticipating things that they can't see, which is why this felt like, well, who is your target audience? And you just said, I don't know. And that's a problem. It doesn't have to be for you, but if you literally don't know who this is for, I
honestly don't think that. For me with NXT 2.0, I personally do not feel like they were trying to target a demo. I think they were trying to solidify this pipeline into the main roster, in which we've seen the retention rate much shorter than we've ever seen in NXT. People weren't marinating down there for 20 years like Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. You got folks that saying, hey, they here. They were at the Performance Center 6 months on NXT 2.0, call them up. Hey, send some people down, have them work with these people who have already established themselves, and then they end up getting catapulted. I mean, you look at Toxic Attraction.
Then why such a radical change, though? Then, if that's what it was, and it was the springboard, then why go through the radical change in aesthetic?
That is what I am beyond curious to know. What changes? That's why right now it doesn't matter to me. Cause I'm like, what are you doing? Like, it wasn't broke. It actually fixed a lot of the issues before.
Well, that's the thing. See, that's a different thing. And this is where we're going to disagree, because what NXT 2.0 did well was actually fit into Vince's vision of what WWE should be. However, that's an 80-year-old guy trying to anticipate what the 18 to 25 drip crowd likes.
Wants.
Right.
And wants.
And to my point, I said, if Vince is out, Trips is in, Trips gets a promote. It's not actually what happened, but let's just say Trips got his promotion from NXT. It's just like any coach. If you worked under a certain system, when you actually become a head coach, you bring that coach's philosophy along with you, and that typically becomes the system
running the rest of the offense.
Right. So then the person that came from under you, Shawn Michaels, who isn't really under you because he's your best friend, now the philosophies align again without change being needed. So my question is, so why are you changing the aesthetic? What's the point here? It's no way you're going to say that NXT 2.0, that color scheme made merch decline, or it was so visually stimulating that no one could bear to watch it. The issue was the continuity before.
I think that's the thing. I think you both are hitting it on the head, where this was 2.0 was done by a bunch of crotchety old men who really thought that 18 to 25-year-olds just want to see Mandy Rose half naked without the wrestling, as if it's the Divas era or the Sunny and Sable era.
Yeah,
that is a bygone era.
Unfortunately,
wink, wink. But as someone who appreciates wrestling like Jamal, the actual wrestling portion of it all, I did like 2.0 bringing a little bit more character work. I did like it not just being ring stuff. So we had an extra wrinkle. Now, if they can kind of combine those two, like I said, almost like a meshing or a melding, I think that's better off for the programming, and potentially it can draw better numbers. Chase U, I've come around on. Y'all knew from the jump I couldn't stand him. Shout out to Harlem Bravado. Good job on you. Still can't stand Grayson Waller. Where was he? Injured. Bye. Solo Sikoa, now on the main roster because he's part of the bloodline. Should have been there from the start.
You can't say that. You don't know if he was ready. And actually, even him being a character on the main roster doesn't mean he's technically ready. It's just in a manager role. But again,
he must be ready enough to get the title. Carmelo, that man, pretty much, you could say Braun Breaker carried it, but the must-see attraction for a lot of people was Carmelo Hayes. It wasn't Braun Breaker. So, if anything, 2.0 gave us that.
Right, and again, after a point, the actual philosophy of 2.0 was Vince, and then we seen in this
Bruce
last
Pritchard.
Right. And then we seen this last month or two instantly become Triple H, Shawn Michaels ish. And so to me, it doesn't matter what the coat of paint that you have on it. Hey, you can have the ugliest car in the world, but if that engine is running, it's going to do what it's going to do. You know what I mean?
Well, but see, the thing is, you want somebody to bet on that car. So instead of it being an ugly piece of shit rust bucket with a clean interior, you want to present your best to keep people look and consume with their eyes first. And that's why books have covers. That's why movies have posters.
And that's my thing. Are you telling me that NXT 2.0 aesthetically does not look better than NXT Black and Gold?
No, aesthetically, I can see why it was changed, like we said, but it's apples and oranges. You know, you're comparing the Nickelodeon color schematic with something gritty and grungy. It's two different genres.
I like when the NFL does their different themes and jerseys. Granted, the Raiders jersey is going to be one of the most iconic color patterns of all time, but let's call it what it is.
Make that shit plaid. It doesn't matter.
That's just boring, bro. You ain't gonna tell me Cincinnati Bengals and they're white, they're orange, they're black ain't always on any given day a better color scheme than a solid color.
Things though, it's like some things don't need to be changed. The Detroit Tigers have been wearing the same uniform since 1905. The Mets have been wearing the same pinstripes since the 60s, and that's fine. But when they came out with that ugly ass UFO uniform in 2001 for the Mets, that shit was horrifying.
Yeah.
The Red Sox, yellow and blue, Nike uniform. The fucking Nike uniforms from this year are mostly trash in baseball. Mostly trash. There are a few that I do like. The Washington one is actually pretty nice, but Jesus H, they're terrible. And it's not because they're at a detriment to the old, thematic elements of what brought you here. But the bottom line is that, when I see a Colorado Rockies jersey, I see purple and black.
Right.
Not a license plate. They put the license plate on a jersey because Colorado, duh. It doesn't have to be a thing. And that's also a thing, too. Aesthetically, This is Triple H's vision. That was his vision of NXT when he took it over.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty clean, WWE like product. And then Vince started huffing paint, and now we get all the colors that he can see. They turn all the lights on in the arena. We can see every single row of the crowd and all this other stuff too. It wasn't just the fact that they went from black and gold, regal, simple, easy to digest,
And William
all
Regal.
the LSD. I can taste these colors now. And that's what it was such a radical change. It's like, what is this?
I guess I won't be changing the colors of the show.
No, we're good with our black and gold, bro. We don't need no indigo colored logos. We're good, man.
All right. But again, the point remains the same is why. I would love to know the concrete reason as to why.
Honestly, probably because what we said. Old people decided 2.0 would be better, don't have their finger on the pulse of wrestling today or sports entertainment today. Now, like I said before, if they can meld the two of 2.0 and 1.0, then great. And I do trust that Shawn Michaels and Triple H, to a degree, have a better understanding of what the modern fan likes while still paying homage to what worked before.
Yeah. Right. It's bringing the next generation with the company to the future, and not just saying that, well, I'm stuck in this particular bygone era, and I'm just going to make the new guys do that. And we've also heard the stories every single week about how Vince is an audience of one, and everybody has to cater to what his whims are, and it is what it is. And he'll just write. And if he does like it, he'll rip up the script anyway, and then call the show on the fly. The bottom line is that we saw NXT the 1.0 fit the model that Triple H had envisioned, and the reason why. Honestly, the reason why it took off is because it was so radically different than the very formulaic main roster. TakeOver was a big deal for those reasons. And because let's not forget that we were all here saying, like, damn, TakeOver Dallas versus WrestleMania Dallas, it's not comparable. And so on and so forth down the line. And then AEW came out, and it's like, well, they did what they did, but they're doing it better.
They better bring takeovers back on that note. So
they are. They announced today. I heard today that they are bringing back takeovers.
Good.
Sure, there you go. So that's the thing. So, like, yes, it was an aesthetically pleasing wrestling focused show, and then Vince changed the script and said, no, fuck wrestling. We are sports entertainment, and we're going to sports entertainment the shit out of this. Yeah. And that's why you have this kaleidoscope of NXT, and Triple H is running his offense, and it's now a wrestling focused, competitive sports-based show. And yes, they still have the goofy characters, but they're doing the wrestling. And, and that also, now that Triple H is in control of top to bottom WWE creatively, we're going to see that pipeline get streamlined, get more streamlined than just going, damn, I hope they don't leave NXT around this time. But, the Ascension. I don't know, man. I don't know.
That was a miss and a half.
Bring them back. This might be the time.
Nah, that was a miss and a half, man.
Well,
they got exposed real quick.
Listen. I know we gotta go to the next topic, but there may be some folks that really they do need to take a look at, because they worked on NXT. It was Vince that they were dead on arrival. That's part of the issue. The continuity between the pipelines is consistent. Listen, things could change. Opportunities may actually work for folks now.
Right.
So
we might see it happen. We might see it happen, especially with the new class of folks. And that's another thing that they underestimated when they started to sign all these college kids. They were already Instagram famous.
They didn't underestimate. They wanted to be. They wanted people to have platforms. So.
Right, as I'm saying, they were already Instagram famous. They don't need you. Now they're here for a reason, and you got them because they're Instagram famous and athletic, and that's cool. But once you get through all the bullshit, and if you don't absolutely love wrestling as a business, then you're not going to put your all into it, and you can go back to being Instagram famous and having, and doing whatever you did.
Legal
But-
legal is very rare when those contracts are getting done.
Right.
Guess who won't be a fool? WWE.
That before we move on, that's actually a little wrinkle that I didn't think about until now about how the contracts were changed. The developmental contracts were changed to have $50,000, and then it was a 3-month probation or 6-month probationary period, and if not, you got cut. So I wonder if that changes going forward with the new vision for NXT, or if you're going to stay the status quo, to avoid the wrath of Khan, which we found out from Triple H. Nick Khan had nothing to do with the cuts.
Got to love the internet. It was really his son that would be sitting front row with no shirt on. Little Poppy Khan. My man be out there really the ones making the executions.
Lil Khan.
Lil Khan.
And speaking of Khans, we'll go on to the other Khan family here in the professional wrestling world with AEW. We're a little over a week and a half out from the fallout, in front of the fallout that happened at All Out. No Bucks, no Kenny, no Punk, no Ace Steel. No one bit each other. At least I don't think anybody bit each other this week. And it didn't seem that AEW missed a step.
You dropped the ball there. You had it right there in your hand. No Punk, no Bucks, no this, no that, no problem. That was the perfect layup for you right there, sir.
I don't care about getting the layup. I'd rather just shoot a 3-pointer. It's more points. Anyway, that's the new NBA. But no, so Dynamite happened. It was an interesting show setting up for Grand Slam. And I think this showed the AEW audience, in my opinion, that you don't need to rely on, to quote Jim Cornette, the Cucamonga Kids and, the ballet dancer known as Kenny Omega. I honestly think the Acclaimed, they need to win the titles next week based on that serious promo that Max Caster cut. You got Stokely Hathaway with his group, The Firm, which that promo was a little confusing and kind of disjointed. But some people are going to complain that we have Danielson versus Moxley, or if you want to use their WWE names, Bryan versus Dean Ambrose, part 2. So, gentlemen, if you saw Dynamite, encouraged without the Bucks and Kenny and Co., or discouraged?
I'll go first, and I'll make it quick. I think that it is very interesting. Their ratings were like one of the highest in about 6 months, 1.17 million. Considering it'll be interesting that football is in play. Not that it aired last night, but there are other things to watch and other things on TV as fall TV starts to come back, and it turned out. So that's the big question. They did all of this without their, who would have said a month ago, their key players. What does that mean for their return? What does that mean for whenever they decide to come back or whenever they're brought back? What does that mean for CM Punk if he's brought back? So I think it is interesting to see how well they ride this wave. Khan does love himself a good tournament. As far as the tournament itself goes, I know when my bathroom break is going to be when I'm at Grand Slam next week. So that's fine. I really wish it was Sammy versus Jericho, because I do think that there's like a student teacher thing that could be had. And also would it be interesting to see how divisive the crowd would be, because people don't want to like Jericho, but people have to hate Sammy for some reason. But instead of that, we get, Battleground 2014 or whatever the hell. That's cute. But so that's fine. But Khan likes to play the hot hand also. And, for whatever reason, Undesirable Number 1 and Bryan Danielson are 2 of the hottest remaining players that he does have. So I understand why he plays that hand too. So yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. I'll be at Grand Slam next week. I really hope that it lives up to the hype of the first one. I don't know how it will, but we also have Rampage tomorrow night, which I didn't look at any of the spoilers, and it'll be interesting to see if that is able to really set the table for Grand Slam. But yeah, AEW seems to be pulling one out of their ass when this time 2.5 weeks ago, the company was in a bit of a tailspin.
Yeah, okay. So here's why I don't care. No, that's not my line. This whole idea of them being able to bounce back after losing major talent. It's no different than what we experienced about a month ago when all these folks were just hurt. Their roster is just that loaded that these main folks and all the controversy that's been around them, which is actually good because it's brought a lot more attention to them because that's just kind of how things work. They'll be okay. AEW's gonna be fine. They got plenty of people that they can elevate in those prominent spots. Tag teams, singles that are in tag teams. There's so many different things they can do here. So this recovery moment of what's next, because yes, this was a monumental moment in the history of professional wrestling, yet alone AEW, and they're going to be fine going forward. And again, with the display of everything that happened, and whether you want to blame Khan, whether you blame the wrestling media, whether you want to blame Punk, the fight, altercation, the suspension, they're going to be okay. Their roster is deep. As Tony Khan frequently says, his money's long. It's going to be all right. They're going to be all right. So just expect just more AEW. Same, the show must go on. I wouldn't be surprised if Khan has not already said that.
They're going to be fine. If anything, all this talk about the 4 pillars and building homegrown talent, sure, you have, 2 ex-WWE guys at the end of the tournament, but lurking over their shoulder is one MJF with his poker chip. So he even said in a promo, basically, one of you, no matter who wins, I'm taking the belt that night. So it's building some intrigue. So potentially we have MJF finally taking the belt, which is a quote unquote homegrown talent. You got Jungle Boy, now that he can't wrestle Christian, kind of trying to make his waves, without, maybe goes after Luchasaurus. The Acclaimed, which for me is one of the best rises of any story in AEW, from constantly on dark to now being one of the most over, if not the most over tag team in all of AEW. So this is a great chance to just see what you have, pivot to your younger talent or newer talent, and give somebody a shot. I mean, we still got Hobbs and Ricky Starks. You saw that mic shot in the mouth with Hobbs bleeding yesterday. There's more intrigue still. So they'll be fine. I think people over-exaggerate the relevance of the Bucks and Kenny to AEW as a whole. I think with the vast majority of American fans that don't watch New Japan aren't going to really miss them. So Bullet Club, fanatics. Go ahead, Two Champs.
No, first of all, just a shout out to the Lowdown Show. What's going on? Appreciate you coming through. Here's the thing. Again, going back a month ago when these folks were hurt, when they came back, you were just like, they're loaded. Their roster's loaded. You could just insert a whole new starting lineup based on people that's injured. None of those people are injured or out or suspended. You just keep going on with the show. It doesn't matter about what we think how the booking is going to be done, because you're right. Elevate the younger talent, the homegrown talent. Of course, that makes sense. It's still going to be booking for good old Reddit. And that's how the show goes. Nothing changes here. Literally nothing changes here. It's next man up, and it's still going to be calm booking in the philosophy that he always sees, thus, i.e. as a fan with a lot of money for Reddit. That's where it's going forward. Do I think that there's going to be an opportunity for a person who may not have been on the vision board to get a chance? Sure, it's got to be at least one in there. But other than that, I'm not going to see nothing drastic. You're not about to see somebody.
We're not going to see Sonny Kiss push to the main event, are we?
Come on now, yeah.
I hope so, but it's not Pride Month, so probably not.
Oh, yeah.
Is he even, like you say that, but like, has AEW even been? Has anybody ever slandered them for pandering? Because I don't think that's been their type of tone. So it wouldn't even matter if it was to that point. It's still going to be booked the same way, regardless. His favorites, the show goes on. Period.
Well, we could say, again, he's the promoter, owner, grand poobah, just like Vince was. So it's basically, somebody has said this, I don't remember who said it, but Khan is essentially a smart mark that has money that can run a promotion.
Wait,
that's
you said somebody said that, or everybody?
Well, where I heard it specifically, I forget where I specifically heard it. It wasn't
everywhere?
On Twitter.
Everywhere?
It wasn't on Twitter. Yeah. So I know on this show I've said it's basically what Wrestle Circus would have been if they had more money. But
stop.
you know my stance on Wrestle Circus, but that's beside the point. But yes, honestly, I don't miss Wrestle Circus. No, I miss covering it, but I don't miss actually it as a promotion. All in all, they'll be fine. It's just one more week. We'll see how long they're suspended for. They have a deep roster. When everybody was injured, like we said before, there was the next person up. Tony gets some more women's matches. I don't need a tag team thrown together of Athena and Tony Storm randomly. More Jade Cargill, just FYI. We had a Serena Deeb sighting this week, so that was good in terms of women's wrestling. So I was very happy to see that. But yeah, if we can pivot and make a little bit more time for underused talents as well as the women's division, Tony Khan, we will be just fine. I know I'm speaking to the atmosphere when I say that, but just putting it on the ether, you never know. So next week, I expect Jamal to give us a fully detailed breakdown of why he doesn't care about certain booking decisions that are happening at Arthur Ashe Stadium, Queens, New York, my hometown.
Don't look forward to that. Don't look forward to that. Don't look forward to that, though. No. I don't know why y'all have this idea that all of a sudden things are just about to change.
No, we're not saying that. We're saying there's room for hope. It may not be false. It may be false hope, but there is always room for hope.
Oh, man. To quote the philosopher herself, the great Big Swole, everything. That's what it is. Everything.
Lowdown Show in the chat says, seems like TK is not as business savvy like Vince. With Vince, the buck stops with him. Seems like everyone stepping all over TK. Correct. We have said that ad nauseum.
We have not talked about that, and I think we probably should talk about that next week in terms of work conduct. Because folks,
we've talked about the wrestlers walking over TK, but we haven't compared the apples to oranges.
Yeah, because
because to be fair, when Swole said what she said, which was New Year's Eve 2021.
Yeah,
I mean, she was the first person to put it out there in a major way that
professionally, by the way, but got slandered like it wasn't.
Well, we know what that was, but but she was the first one to put it out there. That's like, hey, I'm not running the show, but if I was, this is how it would look differently. And to be fair, she was only really talking about the women's division and the lack of continuity within it, and the lack of structure within it. But we've seen that as been kind of blown up throughout the rest of the company. The grass doesn't necessarily have to be greener on the other side, but it is kind of like, they have some real, backstage issues. And that's okay because Christopher Daniels, their talent relations guys in Japan right now. So what could possibly go wrong? So there's that. Yes, the company should be fine. They're locked in on a TV deal for the next couple years. They're definitely in a position to
they signed a new deal?
The deal doesn't end until 2024, I think.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I know it's coming up, but yeah, you made it seem like, because when you're when you're within,
they're locked into a deal for the next couple of years.
Oh, it is 2022.
We're not at 2023 yet, man.
Yeah, but you know what? But you know what though? Because even on the scrum, they have brought up hey, and the TV deal is coming up soon. We have to make a deal on the TV deal. Punk even brought it up. So it's definitely in the forefront that that's going to have to be addressed.
It takes a year to negotiate, but as far as we're concerned, that's obviously something that they want to be in now. This is why the day after WrestleMania, you start planning the next WrestleMania. So they're definitely cognizant of it, but the bottom line is that there are, issues structurally within the company that we've seen. But again, who knows what's what, because the stuff that nobody really talks about anything. That's a whole thing. That's a different conversation about the lack of transparency, and then of course the lack of journalistic integrity. We're getting one story, and then we're getting another story, and then somebody says, as far as I'm concerned, and the story that I'm telling my friends is CM Punk fought off 3 guys in his birthday suit because they pulled up on him while he was in the shower, and his boy Ace Steel decided to bite a man when Kenny Omega's tried to steal his dog. That's the story that I'm telling. I don't know if it's true. I wasn't there. But you know what? It's not wrong. And nobody's going to tell me differently because it's the internet.
Yep.
And that's unfortunately what we have to go with as far as journalistic integrity goes. People say shit all the time. They hear a little bit of a thing, and it gets blown out of proportion. Rewind back to Memorial Day with MJF.
Yeah,
it is kind of what it is.
And what, like we say, it's the internet. Someone's always going to complain about something, which will always keep us busy here at the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. But yeah, it's not that serious, y'all. Wrestling is going to be fine. The wheel will still spin. Someone's going to bitch about something, and people are going to fight tooth and nail and die on the hill for whatever reason, because kids, it's still just wrestling. Calm the F down.
yeah.
But anyway, that's going to be our done end of the night here at the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast. Find us on all your social media platforms at Big Gold Belt. Find us at biggoldbelt.com for wrestling, movies, comics, and more. Again, let us know on social media. What do you think? Are we insane? Do you agree with us? Let us know on Twitter, Facebook, and the like. And we will see you tomorrow. We'll see you next Thursday on the Big Gold Belt Wrestling Podcast.
All I really need